Yesterday's hearing was nothing less than intense.
Let's just be clear. In other words, you have problems with the senators that are up here and how we conducted it, but you're not saying in any way that she is a political pawn, political operative. You have sympathy for her. She is talking about a sexual assault. Is that correct?
I said all allegations should be taken seriously. You should listen to both sides. My family has no ill will toward her.
Thank you, sir. Do you wish that she never came forward?
Senator, I did not do this.
If you wanted an FBI investigation, you could have come to us. What you want to do is destroy this guy's life, hold this seat open, and hope you win in 2020. You said that, not me. This is the most unethical sham since I've been in politics. And if you really wanted to know the truth, you sure as hell wouldn't have done what you've done to this guy. Republican colleagues, if you vote no, you're legitimizing the most despicable thing I have seen in my time in politics.
That was Senator Lindsey Graham. Before that, it was Senator Cory Booker. We've got Dr. Bob on the line to find out his thoughts.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Friday, September the 28th. So glad to have on the line with us Alfred University Professor of Political Science Emeritus, Dr. Robert Heineman. Dr. Bob, your thoughts on yesterday?
Well, I think it's clearly a historic point, and it reminded me a lot, frankly, of the McCarthy hearings way back before your time, Brian. When,
you're not the first person that said that, Doc. That's a great observation, though.
Who was it? The attorney says, "Have you no shame?" That sort of matched Lindsey Graham's view there. The point of the whole thing is, I think we have to keep the big picture in mind, and I think Graham was touching on that, and that is the key point for the Democrats is to either kill this nomination or stall it to the point that somehow they'll get other people coming forward claiming some sort of assault by Judge Kavanaugh. And what's interesting is, of course, is that there has really been nothing in that respect. If you look at the Cosby case and the Weinstein cases, for example, in the Cosby case, I think something like 60 other women came forward with stories that were pretty much similar to the one on which he was convicted. And in Weinstein, you're getting the same. In Kavanaugh, there's nothing. There's nothing besides, as far as I can tell, beside this woman's uncorroborated testimony. It's a question of basically taking the word of a fairly carefully scripted presentation there and saying, well, the fact that there's no other facts or people coming forward under oath to support a position, I think really weakens their spot. But I think the other side of it is, of course, there's nothing unscripted, nothing scripted about Kavanaugh's presentation. I mean, anybody who watches that can see that this guy is sincere and is really concerned about the damage it's done to him and that it's done to the whole process. And I think that's, again, the bigger picture here is if they allow this to torpedo Kavanaugh, the opportunity for this sort of underhanded approach for other nominations is there. I mean, seems to me you can dig around and there's always, it seems to me, somebody willing to come forward and make charges of this sort. At the last minute, it makes the whole congressional process and the nomination process vulnerable to this kind of thing. So I think just from the point of view of maintaining the integrity of the process, the Senate has to say, hold it just a minute. In terms of deliberation, in terms of fair judgment, we have to take a step back here.
Dr. Heineman, one of the questions that Senator Cory Booker and Senator Kamala Harris kept asking Brett Kavanaugh was the question, would you ask the White House to do an FBI investigation? At one point during his rant yesterday, Senator Lindsey Graham said, you keep asking Kavanaugh to demand the White House do an investigation, and Lindsey Graham said, you could have asked the FBI to do that yourselves. Why do they keep asking that question?
Well, they want to stall the proceedings as long as they can. And I guess they may well feel that somehow Kavanaugh is trying to hide something, or maybe they want to give that kind of impression out there, I think. But it's not Kavanaugh's place, one way or another, to ask for FBI investigation. It's up to the Senate, Democrats and Republicans. And I must say, Graham and Cruz and the Republicans coming in there and laying it on the line, that's their role. You don't want to put Kavanaugh in the position where he has to spend all his time defending himself when there's nothing really that he's done as far as I can see, or as far as the evidence produces. So the idea, again, is, I think, to stall this out and hope that somehow somebody else will come forward and push this closer and closer to the midterm elections. So it has kind of a touch of, well, goodness, let's get this dealt with impartially. The fact is, they've had it laying before them for how long now? 5-6 weeks already, and Feinstein's office just released it here at the last minute. I think apparently your office came forward with some clarifications, so to speak, after the hearings there, because it appears that they were involved in this pretty deeply. And interestingly enough, Weinstein's lead in the Senate race in California has been cut in half, so that although she's still up by 10 or 11 points, her lead is eroding rather rapidly out there, and it may well be she's getting a little concerned that this maybe isn't going to help her as much as she thought it might.
Could that be why Feinstein kind of held back compared to Senator Booker or Senator Kamala Harris?
Yeah, I think, yeah, she's on the line, and these other guys, Booker sees himself as a potential presidential candidate, well, as does Harris. And so they're playing to a wider audience. Feinstein, I think, maybe is decided, well, I don't know, but you have another issue with Feinstein. Again, she's getting up there in years. She may not want to go head-to-head in public with anybody, frankly.
Talking to Alfred University Professor Emeritus Dr. Robert Heineman. Was watching the aftermath of the hearings. You could hear protesters in the hallway. We believe Christina Ford, and we believe the survivors. And they were talking very loud behind some of the senators on the Republican side. And Politico reports that there were protesters and counter-protesters outside the Dirksen Senate office building yesterday. Some shouting that they believe Kavanaugh, some shouting that they believe Anita Hill and Christina Ford. It's, you know, they always say that the middle-of-the-road people, that, you know, the Democrats and the Republicans will go with their parties, and the people who aren't so much affiliated with the parties are the ones that are the most important in these sorts of things. How do you think that the middle-of-the-road voters will react to yesterday's hearings?
Well, I think, again, it's interesting. You talk to people here and there and get their responses, and so it takes a little while for all this to kind of digest in the public realm. But I think, again, when you say we believe, I mean, that's all you got to go on there with this woman. as regards Kavanaugh, you got a whole lifetime of service and integrity that, I mean, there's nothing, as far as I can tell, nothing that comes up that beyond claims about his high school years. Maybe his first year in college, I'm not sure, but some of these charges. Beyond that, there's absolutely nothing. Outside the fact that he's had a lot of women step forward and who have worked with him and testified to his integrity and character. This woman, you've got her stepping forward that, 35, 40 years ago, something happened to her. Well, I guess that's what I think the problem really is, for a lot of women, they have been put in a bad situation one time or another, and they're still pretty bitter about it. But that really has nothing to do, as far as I can tell, with Mr. Kavanaugh and his life and his integrity.
I hear a lot of liberals say that women are not going to like Brett Kavanaugh, but when I talk to and see the posts of conservative women on places like Facebook and Twitter, or just hearing them talk off the air, I don't hear a whole lot of conservative women believing in Christine Ford's situation. Now, on the other hand, on the left, I hear a lot of people very intolerant of the idea. They seem to perceive it as the conservatives are looking the other way on one of their own. A lot of division out there on this issue, Dr. Bob.
Well, that's what this touches on, that's for sure. And again, I think your point about the undecided, the independence, is pretty key in that respect. I think they'll have a pretty important role in how all this plays out. But again, a point we didn't make previously here is that you have to remember that President Trump, one of the key issues that he ran on was that he would appoint conservatives to the Supreme Court. And if you look at the polling data makes pretty clear that a significant number of people who voted for him because they thought he would, in fact, appoint conservatives to the Supreme Court. And that's what he has done. So he has delivered on his campaign pledge, and I think at the very least, it's solidifying his base tremendously.
We're talking with Alfred University Professor Emeritus Dr. Robert Heineman, the longtime political science professor. Okay, next in the process, the Senate Judiciary Committee meets this morning, I believe at 9:30, and and they'll vote sometime this morning. Senator Grassley seemed to indicate that that would be done as quickly as possible. What happens then? The full Senate has a vote sometime next week, Dr. Heineman?
I would think I think Tuesday they'll probably vote on it. I think in terms of this whole process, Grassley and McConnell and the Republicans know what the Democrats are trying to do, which is to try to stall this, and that they may, it's possible over the weekend some other charges or claims are going to be made. So they're going to move this along as fast as they can, and I think the Senate will have a chance then, and I think that'll move pretty fast there. I'm sticking my neck way out on this, but I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 Democrats will vote to confirm Kavanaugh.
Wow, interesting prediction. We'll find out possibly in the next 45 minutes, depending on how long it takes for them to get to the vote when they meet this morning at 9:30. Going to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to ask Dr. Bob his thoughts on the possibility of presidential tickets, something like a Senator Booker, Senator Kamala Harris ticket, or one of those candidates with Senator Gillibrand as vice president on the ticket, possibly. Stay with us.
The Hornell Area Arts Council's Maple Leaf Art Festival, Sunday, September 30th at the Hornell Arts Center on Broadway. Visit and purchase items from talented local artists. Bid on a maple leaf in our silent auction. Listen to live music performances by Brian Friedland, Deanza McCool, and the Copper Hounds. Support your local artists and musicians. Come out and enjoy the Maple Leaf Art Festival, Sunday, September 30th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Hornell Arts Center on Broadway. For more more information, follow us at facebook.com/Hornell Area Arts or visit hornellarts.com.
Rob, I want to know the forecast, but first I want to get your thoughts on the hearings.
Oh, you're actually going to give me 4 hours of airtime, huh, Brian?
Yeah, it was pretty long.
Just as a history buff, it saddens me for the country. We're going a really bad place. I don't think the country's been this polarized since the 1850s, just ahead of the Civil War. We're headed down a dark, slippery slope, and I don't know how we get out of it. It just, told my kids last night, you may want to find a backup country, that you want to move to down the road. It's bad. It's bad where we're going. Let's talk about something good, Brian. The weekend forecast does not look bad. It looks pretty good, actually, especially tomorrow. We've already got some drier weather moving into the region ahead of a cold front. I think we're probably going to be partly, if not mostly, sunny for a while today. We're up to about 70 to 75. Sun came up this morning at 7:05. It'll set tonight at 6:56. Tonight, cold front comes through from the Great Lakes. Clouds, a couple of showers around tonight, 50 to 55. Tomorrow, behind the front, we're going to become partly sunny. We're a little breezy tomorrow morning, and it's cooler, 60 to 65. Partly cloudy, chilly tomorrow night, 45. Sunday should be partly sunny much of the day, and 65 to 70, Brian.
Hey, thanks, Rob.
Hey, have a good weekend. I'm moving to Canada.
Back with Dr. Robert A. Heineman. Dr. Heineman, what do you think any presidential tickets will come out of the Senate hearings from yesterday?
Well, I think you have a number of people who are sticking their toes in the water, so to speak. But you do have a number of senators, and again on the Senate floor, this is going to show up. Some of these Democrats who think somehow they should be candidates for the presidency. And the thing I think the Democrats have to worry about is the far left in the party. And interesting enough, the press plays it up very heavily when you get these nutso leftists who actually win once in a while, and they have a coterie of gung-ho zealots behind them, and so they can cause a lot of trouble in the Democrat primary. And once some of those people end up, coming to the fore, it could be a real disaster for the Democrats. So I think that's a problem, and the problem is exacerbated by the fact that the so-called middle-of-the-road Democrats there are kind of put in a really bad spot. So I think that's the thing we have to watch. Plus, I think the Democrats have done away with their super delegates, or maybe not done away with them, but certainly limited them. And these were people who weren't elected, but could involve themselves in the convention selection. And they could provide a kind of moderating force, but by cutting those way back, I think basically they're cutting out that moderating force. So this could be another example of Democrats shooting themselves in the foot here.
Dr. Heineman, yesterday it made the news that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, made a speech to the UN, United Nations General Assembly, saying that the Iranians have a secret nuclear program going on. That got a little attention in the news, but because of the Kavanaugh-Ford hearings, was a little the media was a little distracted on that. Did you have any thoughts? Netanyahu's made this kind of claim before. What do you think? How do you think it'll impact the U.S. and the UN?
Well, I think the UN, I don't know, they're kind of irrelevant, frankly, but it's pretty clear, I think, that Netanyahu and the Trump administration are working pretty closely together. And I would expect they're probably working with the Saudis as well. So he's clearly, I think, building kind of support, or at least letting the public know that Israel is watching this. And as you know, the Israelis have gone into a number of other countries and bombed and destroyed nuclear facilities of one sort or another. So whether they'll try something like that in Iran or not, I don't know, but I certainly wouldn't put it past them. And let me say also, Bolton, in the past, when he was in the Bush administration, was a pretty strong advocate of that approach. So I wouldn't be surprised you have something on the move here, frankly.
We've been talking with Alfred University poli-sci emeritus Dr. Robert Heineman. Dr. Bob, thank you so much for joining us live today.
Thank you, and tell your weatherman to keep his chin up, would you please?